Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 16th, 2023 open meeting of the Guelph Police Services Board. I'd like to start with a territorial acknowledgement. Today we acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations of the Anishinaabe peoples on whose traditional territories we are meeting. I would now like to start by asking if there are any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Hearing none, I will declare that item closed. And now I'm going to ask for a mover to bring forward the motion from the closed session. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, moved by myself, seconded by Jane, that the Guelph Police Services Board approve changes to the volunteer police record checks fees and charges effective immediately to align with changes of legislation.
Thank you. And I believe there's also the $35 fee as well.
Yes, both of those. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Thank you. All in favor? I'll declare that carried. Thank you. Next item is presentations and delegations. So I'm going to ask Chief Colby if you could please walk us through this, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to introduce Inspector Steve Gill. Steve is the inspector in charge of our Investigative Services Division. And January last year, January 22, we implemented, after a couple of successful pilots, a full-time break, enter, and auto theft team. And the purpose of that was to make sure that as a service, we were being responsive to the needs of the community and the very significant impacts that property crime had on the city in the 2 or 3 years prior. So without further ado, Steve, the floor is yours if you want to give us an update on the excellent work that your team has done in the last year.
Thank you very much, Chief. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Thanks, Chief, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the board for allowing me some time today to inform you about this very successful unit within our police service. I thought I would start off by just providing you with a very brief history of the break, enter, and auto theft community response unit, and then summarize basically where we're at today. So I did some research, and this unit, discussion surrounding this unit goes back as far as 2015. And the specific focus was on vehicle thefts at that time. And what prompted that was we had a tragic incident where a University of Guelph student was struck by a stolen vehicle. And unfortunately, at that time, we didn't have the resources to start up this unit. Throughout the years to follow, 2016 to 2019, there was a fairly steady rate of increases in auto thefts. And how we were dealing with this during that period was our General Investigations Special Projects Unit would investigate the auto thefts along with break-in enters. Now, these investigations were usually completed well after the incidents had occurred, and often to a lesser priority than many other cases, such as sexual assaults, serious violent assaults, that took priority at that time and were assigned to that unit as well. Also, over the same time period, it was recognized that attempting to stop stolen motor vehicles in a marked police cruiser was creating an increased risk to public safety. And it was clear that many of these individuals who were stealing motor vehicles would do anything to flee from police. So the first iteration of the pilot project was launched in 2019, and it lasted from January until April. It was very successful, a great deal of very positive community feedback. And the break-in or auto theft team changed our service delivery model. in the sense that it reduced incidents of interactions where stolen vehicles would be engaged in very high risk and aggressive driving, often at the mere sight of a cruiser. And the focus changed to investigations where apprehensions were targeted away from any stolen vehicles, increasing public as well as officer safety. The numbers of this pilot at the time, combined with the community satisfaction and the feedback that we received, spoke very highly of the unit. There was multiple arrests made, hundreds of charges, multiple search warrants, and approximately $150,000 worth of recovered property at that time. Unfortunately, this pilot was only sustainable for approximately 4 months. And then moving ahead, during the latter end of 2020 and the start of 2021, we saw a rise in the city of both commercial and residential break-ins. Businesses in the north end and in the downtown were repeatedly targeted. Residential complexes throughout the city were being victimized, and construction sites, especially those with sea containers for storage, reported numerous thefts. Again, our response to these occurrences was challenging due to the more serious crimes that were being required for the attention of our detectives. As a result of this increase, however, we did start another pilot. This one was in April of 2021 and lasted until May. Again, this pilot was very successful for the short time period it lasted. 122 criminal charges were laid during the 34 working days of this pilot. Offenses investigated and charges laid during the project included break and enter, possession of stolen properties, possession of controlled substances, and trafficking in stolen property. Property was often returned to its rightful owner, and several vehicles were also recovered. During this pilot, we had the opportunity to investigate these crimes that were viewed important by the public. Again, the feedback that we received from the citizens of Guelph was very, very positive. So that brings us to 2022. And at the beginning of 2022, the commitment was made and the resources utilized to implement a full-time break-enter, auto theft, and community response unit. So how does that look now? So the unit is made up of 1 sergeant with 4 detective constables. The primary focus is on property crime, of course, including break and enters and auto thefts. And often there's an overlap with these types of property crimes and offenses with the drug subculture. And this results in numerous drug charges being laid as well. The focus of this unit aligns perfectly with our priorities as set out in the strategic plan. That priority is being addressed, the drugs and property crime, and the unit does exactly this. There are many other benefits to this unit as well, and I think it's often overlooked that part of the name of this unit is the community response unit, and the attributes that come along with that are extremely beneficial. This unit is extremely flexible, can be utilized in a plainclothes or undercover capacity, as well as in a uniform capacity. So this provides the ability for the unit to adapt to the community and organizational needs very quickly. For example, the unit has been and will continue to be utilized in a uniform capacity for significant events such as St. Patrick's Day or Homecoming, which place a significant demand on our uniform resources. They can also be utilized to assist in various other investigations. And as an example, they were utilized for a short period of time during a homicide investigation during 2022. The ability for them to adapt so quickly and focus on what the community requires makes this unit a very valuable asset. And just to provide you with a few stats, so from January 2022 to the end of January this year, We were looking at 90 total arrests, 28 search warrants, 600 total charges. The property recovered, I think, is outstanding, over $500,000 in property that has been recovered. This includes cars, trucks, motorcycles, a boat, a trailer, numerous e-bikes, generators, tools, and the list goes on. And as I mentioned, because of the overlap with the drug subculture, they've seized over $122,000 worth of various drugs, including fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine, which causes a lot of harm within our community. They've also recovered 3 firearms, 2 of which were loaded at the time they were recovered. So they're doing great work out there. And sort of as an anecdotal side story, our community members are extremely happy and sometimes shocked to find out that we've recovered their stolen property. And returning the property is often the best part of the job for the officers in this unit, especially when these items have sentimental value. This was the case when they returned a military plaque along with dog tags to a veteran who had these items stolen during a break and enter. Not only did it make the Veterans Day, it certainly made the day of the officers to be able to return these items to him. This brings a lot of great job satisfaction to our members. So in conclusion, I would summarize by saying that this unit has been a great success. It's a valuable resource, not only to the service, but certainly to the community. It has been successful in addressing property crimes and auto thefts, holding offenders accountable and deterring further offenses, removing illegal substances and firearms off our streets, and improving the overall feeling of safety within our community. And that's all I have for you, unless you have any questions, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Councillor Ault?
Thank you, Chair McSherry. Yeah, through you to Inspector Gill. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I have one question that you might not be able to answer, but I'm going to ask it regardless. I was wondering if you could comment on the homeless community. And there's a significant reason for this. Speaking with frontline workers and support groups like Royal City Mission, there seems to be a real concern that the chronic homeless are getting confused with a fairly sophisticated group or groups of people within, say, the subculture of identity, generally distinct from those whom we identify as the homeless and the destitute. Is that true, or is there a crossover from our experience between those two communities?
And I'm sorry, Mr. Ault, you cut out there for a little bit, but I think what you were asking was, is there a crossover between homelessness and, I'm sorry, were you saying the drug subculture?
Yeah, I'm trying to be distinct in the way that I'm presenting them. There's chronic homelessness, and I admit that there is a significant drug dependency in that group. But there's also a fairly sophisticated drug culture as well. And I'm hearing from people that they are seeing a sophisticated group that's involved in these break-enters and thefts, as opposed to people we might identify with those living on the street chronically.
Yes, and I would agree with that. I mean, we had a rash of motor vehicle thefts that were a lot of Lexuses were being stolen, and those crimes were actually linked to organized crime. Organized crime also has a hand in certainly drug offenses at high levels. And our drug unit, which is another, I would say, very successful unit, has done an extremely good job at trying to tackle that situation as well. So yeah, I would say there's many players involved in certainly the drug culture, from petty thefts often, right? When you're talking about individuals who are out on the street, it's a very difficult and complicated cycle at times, up to organized crime who operate at obviously a much higher level.
Thanks for that clarity.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, are you keeping stats about all of the arrests that have been made? Which ones of those are repeat offenders?
I had a feeling you might ask that, Mr. Mayor. And so what I can tell you, and this is strictly in relation to the break-enter auto theft team.
Yeah.
In that unit, they had. So when I talk about the 90 arrests, 14 of those arrests were repeat offenders for them. So when I say 90, 14 of them they arrested more than once.
Out of, may I just interrupt? So out of the beat category,
that's correct.
14 of those individuals or 14 arrests? Because one individual could have more.
That's right.
Charge, right?
So 90 arrests. Of those 90 arrests, 14 of them are attributed to repeat offenders that have repeated at least twice, and 2 are attributed to repeat offenders that are at least 3 times. So the beat unit has arrested, the break-enter auto theft unit has arrested this individual 3 times. I can also tell you, I checked with the sergeant in the unit today and had this discussion. Yeah. And he advised me that he is aware of one individual who was released on up to 8 releases for vehicle thefts, who would be repeatedly arrested and back into the system. So not just by this unit, but by other individuals and within other areas of Ontario. But 8 times that individual had been arrested and released for vehicle thefts.
Okay, thank you. So my follow-up question, if you don't know the answer, it's fine. But so I'm understanding, great answers, by the way, about the repeat offenders within the 90, within the beat unit. Do you have any idea how many repeat offenders, repeat arrests or charges that correlate to charges and arrests outside of the beat unit, but it's the same individuals?
I don't have the exact stats on that, Mr. Mayor, so.
Okay. No problem. I just love the fact that you thought I was going to ask that question. So I think that's great. Well, it's a big problem. It's a big problem. So thank you very much.
Inspector Gill, you've mentioned that a lot of property that's been able to be returned, and vehicles in particular. That is obviously a great reward, probably very helpful for the people to get back their cherished items. But that would also reduce insurance claims, would it not? Is there any way we can sort of measure what that does for the city of Guelph in terms of helping reduce insurance claims and keep the price of, auto insurance down for citizens?
I think that may be difficult to measure. So what happens, certainly for us, because what happens on some of the vehicles that are recovered, depending on the timing of it, the insurance company may have already paid off on the vehicle, so it actually goes back to the insurance company would have a right to that vehicle. Other times we get them rather quickly, and so the insurance claim would not have to go through. But I couldn't tell you how we could measure that.
Deputy Gates?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I could just add to that insurance companies will base your insurance rate upon your residence, your address. So the city of Guelph may have a different insurance rate than, say, somebody from North Bay or Barrie. They have their own schematics as to how many auto thefts would be in this area. So in short, the work of that team will reduce the insurance rates for the citizens of Guelph based on their address here.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it would be possible at some point in the future to, if we can try and quantify that to sort of show the value of this group to the city of Guelph. If that's measurable in any way. Ms. Armstrong?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just with respect to the arrests, are these primarily people from outside of Guelph, or is there a way of knowing that?
I wouldn't say necessarily from outside of Guelph. Now, that being said, I do know that there was we did have some significant break-in enters that were occurring, and those individuals were from outside of town, but I don't have an exact breakdown for you.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up, so certainly the auto theft is something that's not unique to our community. It seems to be something that's across. So is our organization cooperating with other police services in the area with respect to the auto theft issue? Because it seems to be something that's across various areas in Ontario.
Yes, absolutely. We do share information, and we have a close working relationship with Waterloo Regional Police Service, of course. And we unfortunately share a number of offenders that are prolific in this area. So there's very good communication in that regard. And then we do participate in the organized crime committee, and any information that they have, that they come across, whether it's provincially or internationally, that would be of benefit to us, they would share that with us.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, well, Inspector Gill, I want to, oh, sorry, Chief Kobe.
Yes, no, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Steve and his team. And I also wanted to reiterate for the community how much, like, we understand as a service the real significant impacts that property crime, whether it be like the seriousness of break-enters or auto thefts or stolen bikes. Like, we realize that for some people, you invest in your e-bike, that's your mode of transportation. And if that's stolen from your porch, that has a big impact. So in line with the work that Steve and his folks have been doing, like I've said many times, please, if anyone in our community is in fact a victim of one of these crimes, it's crucial that you let us know. Like, we can't guarantee we'll always solve it, but we can guarantee that we can make sure that a community member can make us aware of it, so that that's part of the intel and the analytics that Steve's team will use to focus their investigations.
Yes, and thank you, Inspector Gill. I wanted to thank you and your team for this great presentation and making us aware of the steps that you're taking to protect the citizens of Guelph and to ensure the safety of the city of Guelph. With the, I think that's an important aspect as the solving of these crimes. From what you've described, that you're doing it in a manner that's much more protective of the citizens of Guelph and our officers. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the board for allowing me some time today. Have a good day.
Okay, the next item I would like to move on is we need to have approval of the minutes of the open meeting from January 19th. Can I have a mover? That'd be Phil. A seconder, Mr. Mayor, and all in favor? Carried. Okay. Now approval of our agenda. Can I have a motion to approve our agenda? Jane, seconded by the mayor. All in favor? Carried. All right. Next item is the chief's monthly report. If I can call upon Chief Kobe for that. Chief, you're muted.
Sorry.
I'm sorry,
Now
Mr. Chair. Sorry, Mr. Chair, just a point of order. Did we just do the consent? I thought we only approved the agenda. But then after that is the consent. Did we just do the consent? I thought we just did the agenda.
We just did the agenda. Yes,
Can we move consent before we go to the chief's monthly report?
Sure, by all means. Can I have a motion to approve the consent?
I'll move it.
And seconded by Jane. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Kobe, could you?
Sure. And with your permission, Mr. Chair, my monthly report is essentially the update I'm going to give on the strat plan. So if I can just proceed into that, if you're okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Now I know our board has seen a copy of this in their package, but for the benefit of our community who may not have, I won't read the entire document, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to go through some of the highlights. I think you'll see that we tried this year to give a very comprehensive overview of some of the things that have been achieved, and all focusing on our strategic plan and the priorities. So if we start with community policing, 2022 brought with it both challenges and opportunities for our service and our community. And once again, in 2022, our members continued their tireless work to support our objectives and our citizens. I think it's important to remember, if we look back to December 2021, we still had a lot of COVID impacts and things like that. So the spring of 22 is when we started to, I think, return to what we were more used to as far as community contacts and dealing with each other. But 2022, we saw a very significant prioritization of how we as a service and our members can continue to be more proactively engaged with our citizens. And two very key initiatives that we did. We launched what's called our Citizens Police Academy, and we were really grateful to host our first two organizations, who was the Canadian Arab Women's Association and the Arab Women's Society of Guelph. So two different organizations who participated in this program. And it's essentially 8 weeks where they get to learn from members of our service about what our service does and the different things we provide for our citizens. But one of the themes that we've really noticed in hosting these sessions is they kind of start out so people can learn about our service, but they become incredibly valuable opportunities for us to learn so much. It's almost like sometimes I feel when I attend these sessions, I'm asked to provide some information. I think I end up learning so much more from the participants than they learn from me. So these have really been a wonderful opportunity for us to get 8 weeks with different organizations to spend time sharing perspectives and understanding goals and needs and things like that. Overall, last year in 2022, we had well over 3 times more documented positive, proactive engagements with our community. We now document these things, whether it be a proactive patrol, a community event, specifically track this so that we can measure our success and also track improvements. And if there are areas we need to improve, we have reliable data to work on. We also, in 2022, we made a lot of progress. We're in the initial planning for our new strat plan, which our goal is to align that with our, both with our city priorities, but also with our multi-year budget coming up. Part of that, when we build our new strat plan, will be a specific portion of that plan will be a strategic plan with respect to new equity, diversity, and inclusion goals and initiatives. I think it's important that we have a defined plan and concrete actionable items to support our work in this area. We're very proud in 2022. We were honored to get to work with retired Chief Devon Clunas to support us in a number of key areas, including leadership and executive development, cultural competency, and strategic planning. I won't go through Devon's very significant resume, but Mr. Clunas brings a wealth of experience to our service and our community, and we look forward to working with him again this year in 2023. I think it's important to recognize in the fall of 22, we held our senior officer promotion process, and retired Chief Clunas, he participated as a member of the interview panel for that process. So that gave him a process to participate in the development of the questions, all the interviews. So it really allowed our service to benefit from his input in that very important process. 2022 also saw, after our successful pilot project and an extensive amount of research, the deployment of body-worn camera technology for our operational members. This was achieved after our pilot project in 2021 and further serves to demonstrate our commitment to the trust of our community, ensuring best evidence is supplied in relation to our law enforcement partners, and that is fully completed, that deployment of that technology. We also, along with the deployment of body-worn cameras, we developed a new duty to report procedure for all of our members to ensure that our commitment to the most professional and transparent conduct is enshrined in our procedures and our daily practices. We continue to deliver enhanced post-OPC or Ontario Police College training for our new recruits. This includes training from Immigrant Services Guelph Wellington, the African Canadian Initiative, and the Guelph Multicultural Festival Chair. If you recall, in 2019, we committed to the transition of all of our marked frontline police vehicles to hybrid technology. In 2019, we said we would do that in 3 years, and we're very happy to say that that was completed. And now all of our marked frontline police vehicles are in fact hybrids. This was something that was important for us is an important commitment, and just as important is completing the commitment. And it's aligned with our commitment to the environment and the city's goal to reach net carbon emissions by 2050. We also, our Community Policing Committee developed a number of new initiatives. For example, we now have on our website a handbook for strengthening harmony between communities and the GPS, which was really created to help our citizens understand the role of police and obtain more information on our services. We also created a site just for community policing, which includes the handbook I referenced, as well as personal and family safety tips, crime prevention through environmental design assessments, and now a specific request form to request our members' attendance at community events. Now, I just said a lot there. I'm not done yet, but I'm going to stop and pause at community policing before I move on. Are there any questions? I could talk forever, but I know you've all read the documents, but I really, for those members of our community who may be inclined to listen to this, I wanted to give a bit of an overview. So any questions yet? Nope. Okay. Organizational health and service effectiveness. It's very important. Our greatest asset as an organization is the trust of our community and our employees themselves. So we worked hard to make sure we continue to expand the supports available to our members. Our wellness coordinator was certified in Road to Mental Readiness and a number of areas now where she's able to give training to our members. Our wellness coordinator does a great job hosting sessions to kind of maintain the wellness of our members. 2022 also saw the onboarding of our service's first full-time health and safety coordinator. Virtually, literally immediately, that new position has demonstrated a great deal of value for our service. 2022, we also expanded our safeguarding program. So that's essentially regular psychological assessments for certain positions in the organization to ensure our members' wellness in a proactive way. We continue to expand that program for more positions, and it's our goal to continue that expansion. We also, in 2022, introduced our first internal support network. Our Women's Internal Support Network is a voluntary, member-led self-support network designed to help members who identify as women share information and experiences while providing mentoring and guidance in an effort to ensure all members develop both personally and professionally. This ISN will serve as a resource for our members and the GPS by fostering an inclusive workplace aligned with our organizational mission, vision, values, and our strat plan goals. I know the board has, we've talked about this before. We also in 2022, to ensure increased effectiveness for the first time in over 20 years, reevaluated our patrol zones and how we deploy resources throughout the city. As a result of that evaluation, we've updated the zones and added a new zone, in fact, so that we can better deploy resources throughout the community. Community wellness, in keeping with our goal, we've continued to expand the use of our Health IM application to support those that we are called to support who may be experiencing crisis, as well as medical professionals who follow up with these individuals. Connor and so many of our other folks continued their work in our downtown, supporting all of our community partners. And over the last year, we continued and will continue. We're dedicated to see our impact team, our integrated police and mobile crisis team, become the first in Ontario to have 24/7 availability to respond with our members. So we can continue that advocacy in 22 and look forward to continuing that process again in 23. Road safety, continued expansion of online reporting and CopLogic, routine commercial motor vehicle inspections, working not only in Guelph, but with our partners and other police services. And drugs and property crime. We had a record number of seizures in 2022. We also continue to really emphasize the importance of harm reduction through our direct involvement with community partners, including the Guelph Wellington Drug Strategy and public health. I know that Steve just spoke a lot about the break-enter auto theft team and our property crime. Again, just to summarize the information he gave, overall in 2022, our break-enter and auto theft team executed 28 search warrants, arrested and charged 90 individuals, laid over 600 charges, and recovered over $500,000 in stolen property. And finally, our downtown is an incredibly important part of our community, and we are committed to supporting our downtown, all of those who live, visit, and work downtown. Our downtown resource officer program continued to grow. We now, if my numbers are correct, we had over 800 documented proactive engagements with our downtown community. So that could be proactive patrols, proactive, like attending meetings. That's over and above any calls for service into the downtown, but well over 800 proactive engagements downtown. And we really look forward to continuing to evolve and expand our support to the downtown community. And I know that was quite a soliloquy, Mr. Chair, but barring any questions, and as I promised, I didn't read the whole doc, but I wanted to get a bit of a summary of it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Any members have a question? No. Well, thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
I don't have a question, which is why my hand didn't go up right away, Mr. Chair, but I have a comment if that's appropriate.
Yes, please proceed.
All right, thank you. Look, I just want to say, honestly, this is just awesome work. It really is, and I'm glad it's out in the open here for me to digest, but for the community to digest as well. And so to you, Chief, to the deputy, and the entire senior leadership team, all the behind the scenes, all the frontline officers, I just honestly, I can't thank you enough. It's a tough slog sometimes. You probably don't get maybe as much praise as you should for the work that you do. So I just really wanted to say thank you. It's not going unnoticed, and but it needs to be stated more often. So thank you very, very much for the work that you're doing. Looking forward to more improvements in 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know you guys have heard me say this, but every time you're kind enough to thank us, I will tell you that we are but the faces of the many, many, many men and women who do the work that we are privileged enough to report on. So thank you for the thank you. And please know, Daryl and I and Judith, you get to see our faces, but we're not the ones who do all this work. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Phil, I believe, did you have your hand up for? No, sorry. Any further questions? Comments? Okay, well, thank you very much. I think the mayor summed it up very well. This is a great report and shows great commitment to a strategic vision that you've had and the improvements you've been putting over a long period of time, and is showing fruit for the city of Guelph. So thank you. Next item is new business. Any new business? Hearing none, I'll declare that closed. And I guess our next meeting is going to be, next open meeting will be Thursday, March 16th at 2:30. And I guess at that point, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Be moved by Phil and seconded by Jane. And all in favor? Thank you.